Hello everyone. Today we're going to be talking about my fabric choices for the new mystery quilt that starts on Friday, November the 15th. So it's just a couple of days away, and many of you who are planning on doing this quilt with me have already chosen your fabrics. There's no set fabrics for this quilt. I like to leave it up to the quilt maker to pick out their colors for their quilts. Great exercise for color theory, picking out colors, and working on your color management and putting colors together for your quilts. So today I just thought I would share what I chose for my quilt, and you could either just use this as suggested colors, or I'm going to also show you ways that if you have not decided what color of fabrics to use for your quilt, that you could pick out a color palette that works well. And yeah, I'm just going to share some tips with you today. So let's go ahead and move some stuff around on the screen. Let's see. First, I'm going to start with how to find some color ideas. Okay, so what I did and what I like to do for most of my quilts is sometimes I have a hard time coming up with great color combinations or colors that work well together, color palettes that I normally wouldn't work with, but are really, really fantastic. And so what I do is I just go to Google. So if you open up the internet and you type in, well, you could type in anything, but what I did is I typed in trending fall colors, just like you see here on the screen. All different kinds of search results will show up, just like you see here, images for trending fall colors. You could even put in 2019, and that would be the newest trending fall colors for this year. I type on images, and pages and pages and pages of color palettes will show up. Now these are color palettes like makeup palettes, clothing fabric palettes, nail color palettes, crafting paint palettes. Designers for all different kinds of products have put together color palettes that you can look at and choose from. So just pages and pages will go through, and this is what I did, and I found a color palette that I really, really loved. Again, it was colors that I ordinarily wouldn't put together, but are fantastic, and they really go with the decor in my downstairs area where I want to display this quilt when I'm done. So what I did is I saved a screenshot on my phone and took my phone to the fabric store, and I picked out my fabrics based on this screenshot from Google. So this is a great way not only for your quilt projects, but if you're getting ready to make anything, a painting, maybe you're going to make a wooden wall sign and you want some really interesting colors that go really well. You could Google a color palette. Maybe you're doing vinyl for a shirt. All kinds of different ways or uses that you could Google color palettes and implement them into your crafting world. So you could do that. You could use Google as a reference, or you could go to the trusty old color wheel and choose some fabrics that way. Now, what I like to do is you'll see a color wheel here on the screen. You have your primary colors, the yellow, red, and blue. Then you have complementary colors. So yellow is at the top and it points an arrow down to purple. You could do complementary colors, which really add a lot of interest and boldness in your quilt. And then you can do the secondary colors, which are usually on one side of the color that you've chosen. So you could use a color wheel, and then within each one of your colors, there are all different hues or saturations of that color. So let's say you wanted to use purple as your main color. There's all of these different coordinating different hues and saturations of color that you could use. And also the colors on either side could be like accent colors. You could go across the color wheel as some bold, interesting, complementary colors to add to your quilt. Now, I hope that's not confusing. There are so many different color wheels on the internet that you can purchase or download, and that I find really useful when picking out colors for my quilts. So there's two different ways to pick out your colors. You could just stand at your fabric stash and choose any fabrics that you want. It is your quilt, and you could make it however you want. So there's some suggestions on how to find color ideas for your quilt. Let's go ahead and move over to what I chose for mine. This here is, where did we go? There we go. Okay, that's the color palette right above me that I chose for my quilt. You have Meadow, which is hard to read on this screen, which is a light, light, light green. Basil, Goldenrod, Scarlet, Chocolate, and Tiffany. So these are the main colors of my quilt. Let me show you all of the fabrics that I picked out. So I just saved this as a screenshot and took it to Joann's, and I walked down the aisles and I chose these fabrics. Now, I don't think the photo is really emphasizing the colors so great. I should have done some editing to the colors on my photo. However, these all line up with the colors that you see on the screen. Now, I will say that I substituted my background color as a neutral sort of tan beige color for Meadow. If you are planning on following along with this mystery quilt, on each one of the pattern pages, you get a color diagram of what your finished block will be. That color diagram example is going to be in these colors and how I plan on using these colors to make up my quilt blocks. Everything you see in Meadow, the background color on those photos, I'm substituting for the background fabric that I'm going to show you. Let's see. Let's go ahead and break down my fabrics this way. This is the border, sashing, and background colored fabrics that I've chosen. This dark chocolatey background on the very bottom, that's going to be my border fabric. The scarlet colored fabric right in the middle is going to be my sashing color. And the color right on top is going to be the background for all of my units or my pieces that we're making together. This is the color that I've substituted for Meadow. I'll show you a little bit better photos of each one so that you can take a look. This is my border fabric. It is the chocolate brown color. And just to let you know, I found all of these fabrics, except for the scarlet one, in the calico section of Joann's. So if you're interested in getting any of these, that's where I found them. This is the border fabric. This is the sashing fabric that I've chosen. Now, it's not exactly what the photo example scarlet shows. It's a little bit more brown. However, this fabric really goes so well with my downstairs that I changed the color scarlet to this. So I think it's missing a little bit more of a red tone if I wanted to match it exactly with this color palette. My background fabric is this, and this is the one that I'm substituting for Meadow. Then, as far as my applique fabrics, I'm going to show you my scarlet and chocolate different array of fabrics that I chose. Now I have 3 different brown fabrics and a little bit of my sashing color included I wanted to tie in some of the sashing color and some of my applique. Now, when I purchased my applique fabrics, these were all on sale. And so I just bought half yards of each one of them, and that's going to be more than enough to do the applique for this quilt. I'm going to have so much fabric from this quilt project that goes back into my stash area. So if you're wondering how much fabric to actually purchase, if you're purchasing fabric, a good suggestion would be like a 1/4 yard or a half yard. Even if you wanted to do fat quarters, you could do that as well. I do think that there's some of the applique that's going to be a little bit larger. So when using fat quarters, keep that in mind. But yeah, half a yard, you're going to have so much fabric putting back into your stash. What I like to do is get at least 3 when I'm purchasing fabrics specific for a quilt project. I like to get at least 3, a dark, a light, and a medium. And that just sort of adds some contrast and a little bit of interest to my applique projects. So this is my scarlet and chocolate selection for my applique. Again, my scarlet's not quite as red, but this is going to look so fantastic downstairs. Next, we'll take a look at my goldenrod colors. And you can see the fabric on the bottom is really, really like a darker yellow, which is so lovely with all of my fabrics. And then I have 2 other that I would consider goldenrod, and then the fabrics above it are a little bit more neutral. I really wanted some really light contrasting light fabrics that contrasted well with my darker fabrics. And so this is my fabric selection for the goldenrod color. Next, I'll show you my selection for the basil fabrics. I have a dark, a medium, and a light of the green color. Really, the top and the middle one match the most to my color selection, but the light one is almost on the meadow side. I think these are going to tie in so well with all of the rest of the colors. And then this last one, the Tiffany, is the one that I probably would not have chosen on my own, but the color palette suggested it, and it really does add a lot of interest to all of my fabric selection. So I have a dark, a medium, and a light of the Tiffany color, which was really more like an aqua color or a light teal color. But those are the fabrics that I've chosen for that. Now again, you do not have to purchase specific fabrics for this quilt. You could just go to your stash and use any fabrics that you like, and they could all be different. This whole quilt could be completely different. I just wanted to share what I plan on using before Friday so that you get an idea of what my blocks are going to look like and an idea of what my quilt will look like before we get started. So let's see, what I'm going to do is bring up one more time the fabric requirements for this quilt in case you had missed that video, and you can maybe pause this, take a screenshot. You can bring this to the fabric store as well. I have not chosen the backing fabric for my quilt yet. I really wanted to put this quilt together, and the one fabric that I did want to purchase for the back of this fabric, they didn't have enough of. So I have put that off, and I have not made a decision on my backing fabric yet. However, I know I'll be going to the Joann's several times before this quilt is over, and so I'm going to keep checking. I don't know that I want to order it. I like to see it in person, but I'm going to keep checking to see if they get a new bolt of it, and if not, I'll make a decision on the backing as we get closer to finishing off this quilt. So for the binding, you'll need 5/8 of a yard, and you'll cut that into 9 strips that are 2.5 inches wide. For the border fabric, you'll need 2.5 yards. For the sashing fabric, you'll need 1.5 yards. The background fabric, which will be the base of each one of our applique blocks, you'll need 5 yards. Now, I purchased all the same fabric. You could do the background all different if you like. It is your quilt, and I do not want to restrict you in any creative way with your quilt. If you want to do one background black and another background white and a background red, it's your quilt. And I hope that you feel like you have the freedom to creatively change your colors as you choose. For my quilt, I know that I want all my background to be the same. You'll need about 5 yards to do all of the background for this quilt. And then applique scraps. So when I say that I purchased half yards, that's just me knowing that I'm going to have fabric left over to put in my stash. Half yard friendly, fat quarter friendly. You could do quarter yards as well if you wanted to get a large array, but reduce the amount that you're spending. If you're buying fabrics, you could do that as well. So if you have any questions, I would love to try to help you. You can ask them down below in the comments section. I'm so excited about this quilt. It's going to be so much fun. And again, if you haven't seen the details about this quilt, you can check out that video in the description box below. And also the fabric requirements, you'll be able to actually print this out. If you're waiting until we start this quilt, the fabric requirements will be with block 1 and 2. So you can print that out and go to your stash or go to your fabric store and have this as a list that is printed. So I think that's everything. Again, I'll pull up, let's see, I'll pull up my fabrics so that you can see them one more time. All fabrics, there we go. I cannot wait to start seeing the colors that you've chosen. I would love to also know, how did you choose out your fabrics? Did you just use your favorite colors? Did you use something that coordinates with a room that you want to put the quilt in? Did you use a family member's favorite colors? Maybe you're making this as a gift to give to someone. Yeah, I cannot wait to start seeing and hearing all about your quilts. And I guess we will see you on Friday. Have a fantastic day, and we will see you all really soon. Bye, everybody. Find my stop recording button. We'll see you all really soon. Bye.